interview with a congressional candidate who is running this year. We have 1 week to go before the presidential election, and obviously these congressional down-ballot races as well. The Progressive Candidate Summit, we've had 19 interviews before tonight. There are fabulous, fabulous people running, and it's been an absolute joy, pleasure, and honor in meeting all of them. These congressional races are every bit as important as the presidential race. I fervently want Joe Biden to win the presidency, and we also know that these congressional races matter too. We need to keep the House. We need to keep the House blue, but we need to more than keep it blue. We need it to be a progressive blue. There are a lot of different shades of blue, and that's very much the issue here tonight with the candidate you're about to meet. I want to introduce you to a wonderful woman. I'm so impressed by her. This is a 36-year-old woman named Angelica Dueñas, and she is, listen to this, for what this woman has done already with her life. She is a community organizer and a mother of 5, who is currently running as a progressive Democrat for the U.S. House of Representatives in California's 29th district. She was born in the working class neighborhood of Sun Valley, which is located in California 29, was raised by her parents who immigrated here from Mexico. She's the first person in her family to achieve a higher education. She has a bachelor's degree in political science, as well as a master's in organizational leadership. She has served as a board member, vice president, and president of the Sun Valley Neighborhood Council, and has worked as a delegate for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 and 2020 races. She successfully made it past the primary election in March and is currently looking to unseat the establishment incumbent this November. The establishment incumbent, while a Democrat, is an establishment Democrat who takes money from the fossil fuel industry and big pharma. His name is Tony Kajanis. He does not support the Green New Deal or Medicare for All or UBI. He's been there a long time. I'm sure he'd have a lovely retirement, and it is time for Angelica Dueñas. Please join me in giving a real warm welcome to this very, very impressive young woman. Angelica, please join us. I'm so glad that you're here. Hi. You need to unmute yourself.
There I am. Hi there.
Oh.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Angelica, I'm so happy that you are here. And I'm very sincere when I say how impressed I am. You've run this race before. You came back. I think a lot of the people in these in the congressional races, they ran once and then they came back. And there's a lot of excitement about you in your district. At the very least, it's going to be close, but you think you're going to make it. You're going to make it across the finish line. Tell us something. First of all, I'm fascinated by you. I'm fascinated by somebody 36 years old who has 5 children who decides to run for Congress. Tell us enough about yourself that we can get a little look into that obviously very beautiful spirit of yours.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much for such an amazing introduction. It's just beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, my name is Angelica Dueñas. I'm running for Congress here in the San Fernando Valley, the 29th Congressional District. The reason why I'm running, the reason why we're in this race is because of our terrible representation. Like you said it, Tony Cardenas has been there for a very long time. He's actually been around for a very long time, since I was in junior high. Way back then, he was a state assembly. He was in the state assembly for 8 years, city council for 10 years, and now in Congress. And we have absolutely nothing to show for it. We take a look around our community, things have gotten a whole lot worse. The opportunities have gotten less. And the conditions have just gotten more and more and more horrific. We're seeing the homelessness just on the rise. We're seeing our health deteriorating, and and now with the pandemic on top of it all, we're still not seeing action from our representation. And that's the reason why I'm here, out of desperation and out of just the necessity to act. And as an act, what we do, we organize and we activate our community. And this is what I'm here doing is, we're running a 100% people-powered campaign that has been getting more and more support as time goes on. People are very open and very excited about our race. I mean, it's just been amazing, from getting phone calls from people, getting our text messages, our mailers, and our door hangers. I mean, who gets a phone call for a door hanger? And I was able to find the door hangers. We were talking about it. So these are our door hangers, and people are just loving them. And we have a mailer, and I'm literally getting phone calls and text messages from people like reading our message and really connecting. And I have my phone number on there, and people call me and then they text me and stuff, and I answer if I'm not, walking the street, doing canvassing. I'm answering the phone, and I'm calling people back, and it's just been really amazing to speak with my community and for them to really reaffirm what we're doing is the right thing, that we're out here, for such a long time with COVID, we weren't having that connection. You know what I mean? There was a big long time where we were just like 100% virtual and text messaging. And as time has gone by with the proper protective our masks and everything like that, and keeping everything clean, we've been feeling a lot more safe going out and at least doing door hangers, no knock canvassing, we call it. But even then, conversations happen, and it has just been such an amazing experience. And I think we're all just happy for that human connection that we've all missed. And it's just been truly amazing. It's been really satisfying, and it just lets us know that what we're doing is the right thing. The polls have us a neck and neck, 48%, 49%. At one point, we were like a little bit up. So we're neck and neck. We're neck and neck. So we're out here. We're on the street. We're passing out our door hangers. We're text messaging. We are doing phone calls, and honestly what we're hearing is that our community is looking for a change. And I mean, things are just getting heated here in the 29th congressional district. It's so exciting.
Well, it is very exciting because you're exactly what we need in Congress, and everybody knows that there's a new spirit that is being born in this country. And you're the type of person who needs to be there. We need new energy, people standing for the things you stand for. When you talk about the desperate situations and circumstances of so many people in your community, they need Medicare for all.
Absolutely.
They need free college and public education. They need humane immigration reform. They need you to abolish ICE. They need criminal justice reform. They need you to ban private prisons. They need you to protect women's rights, LGBTQIA rights, and they need you to fight against racial injustice and inequality. And they are aware, as people all over this country are aware, those jobs are not getting done. And even when we elect Democrats, when we elect the corporatist establishment Democrats like your opponent, goes back to that shades of blue issue. It's not enough to just say, okay, I'll vote for the Democrat. And then with the jungle primaries like you have in California, it's both Democrats on there. And,
yes.
And we need women. It's so time. We need women.
Yes, I'm the only woman that has ever ran for this seat, ever. Well, we went back to take a look. I know, it's amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I'm the only woman that has ever ran for this seat. So it's definitely time. It's time for change, for real change.
And I love the fact that you're a mother. I love the fact that you're a mom. I love the fact that children are, obviously with 5 children, so absolutely front and center in your life. Mm-hmm. And there is obviously a real progressive arm of the Democratic Party. You've got the AOCs, et cetera, who are already in Congress. And I know that you would work in strong solidarity with many of those people. Many of them are women, to bring in a whole new era, a whole new energy. We need to shift from an economic to a humanitarian bottom line. And all of these issues that you stand for accomplish that. We have a corporatocracy, right? A whole matrix of corporate and financial interests that have way too much influence in Congress. And with your opponents taking money from big oil, taking money from big pharma, that's who those corporate aristocrats are. And you're taking your money. And speaking of money, I hope everybody will go to Angelica for Congress. That's Angelica and then numeral for Congress.com. Angelica for Congress.com. Help her in this last week.
And speaking of money, we just put out a graphic recently where it showed like where does our money come from, and like our little circles, 100% individuals, and he was like, I think it was like 24% individuals, and the rest was all super PACs and special interests. This is what we're up against.
This is what you're up against. And it's what we're all up against, because the policies that are determined by that kind of corporate influence is having a horrible effect on our democracy and is having a horrible effect on people's lives. But if we want the change, we have to send in the change agents. And so that's, I'm talking to you, all of you who are watching. If you meet someone like Angelica, like you're meeting her tonight, and go, you know, Congress would be better, America would be better. If there were more people like her there, this is your turn. This is your turn. Please go to Angelica for Congress, #4, and do what you can. And spread the word and tell people, get on text right now. Tell people to come here to the progressive candidate.
Yes, please.
And meet Angelica right now. Angelica, I have a couple of people who want to ask you questions who are supporters of yours. But before we bring them out, is there a particular issue? You know, you've talked about the progressive issues that you stand for, that you stand on. Is there any one particular close to your heart that you feel like, wow, I want to go to Washington and work on that?
Well, I mean, they're all the top issues really are something that's close to my heart. But I mean, I think in our district, something that we haven't been hearing a lot of has been in reaction to the pandemic and real relief for the American people.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, $1,200 if you were lucky. How is that supposed to last us 6 months at this point? It's just criminal. And I think that, you know, we really saw where our representation, you know, where their loyalties lie in this whole pandemic and their reaction and lack of action that we've seen. And so I think that one of the things that it really needs to get put forth is the pandemic relief and pushing for real relief for the American people, a cancellation of rent and mortgages, utilities, including internet, and an emergency UBI. We need that. We need it now. And I'm so disgusted that the relief for the American people has been so politicized, and both sides of the aisle have really just shown us where their loyalties lie, and that's with the corporations. So that's one thing that, you know, I really can't wait to be able to utilize my platform and my position of power to bring attention to, and to really make the people understand just what type of a horrific wealth transfer that just transpired twice in the last, you know, few months here with the bailouts that we saw that the mega corporations got and that we didn't.
Well, that's right. We have that major wealth transfer began, of course, 40 years ago, and both the bailout this year as well as 2008 basically only exacerbated the situation. We spent trillions of dollars, and very little of that has trickled down to the people who need it most. When I heard Secretary of the Treasury Mnuchin refer to that one $1,200 payment as bridge liquidity, I almost threw something on television. How dare he? That's the price of dinner for him and his wife on one of their European jaunts or something. I was, I mean, we already had, you know, 40% of the American people couldn't handle a $400 unexpected expenditure even before the pandemic. And you well know more than 8 million people more in poverty right now. You know, they talk about they hope to have a stimulus package by the election day. How many millions of Americans hope to have enough food to feed their children by election day? And many of them don't. So right. I'm glad that you called it criminal, because I think it's criminal too. And of course, in order to change all this, we also need to get the Senate put into Democratic hands.
Absolutely.
So I think all of you have been so active in this last week, doing everything you can. And remember, when it comes to these congressional seats, somebody doesn't have to be from your district for you to have an interest. You know, Angelica will be voting on things will affect your life. She might not be your congresswoman, but she will be voting on issues that affect your life. You have a couple of wonderful supporters that I'd like to bring in now, if I may. And the first one is a woman that I have met before, and I find her story particularly fascinating, and that is Maybe a Girl. Maybe a Girl, treasurer of the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council and former congressional candidate from California 28. Hi, Maybe, how are you?
Hey, Marianne, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you ran for Congress, and you came very, very close.
Very close. And, you know, that's how I came to know Angelica. We were following each other during the primary races. I know that we were both rooting for each other. And, you know, come election night, I remember election night, it was probably like 2 or 3 in the morning. And me and Angelica were Instagramming each other, being like, oh my God, how close are you? How close are you? and we both knew that our races were neck and neck. And ultimately, I didn't advance. We came really close, but I was so thrilled to see that Angelica advanced to the general election. And as soon as I saw that happen, I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything possible to make sure that she was elected to Congress, because she's the kind of progressive candidate that we need, not just here in the LA area, not just in California, but nationwide.
Well, absolutely. And sisterhood is everything. And
Exactly.
when a woman, any woman that you know is trying to do something big and important, stand at her side and help her. And particularly if she's trying to run for office, that's what I say. And I know you'll run again, Angelica, you're running again. This is so important. Maybe, I asked before, are there any other trans members of Congress? And you said no, but I see right there on your face on the cover of Time magazine when you get there. Both of you are what we need. There is no doubt about it. There's a new energy, a new understanding, a democratic fervor. I think of it as a kind of pro-democracy movement. You see it in Belarus, you see it in Hong Kong. We need it here. And I think it's happening here in this chaotic time. And we all know the suppressive forces and forces of real danger and authoritarianism and worse. But when I meet people like yourselves, I know we are going to make it. So maybe you have a question for Angelica?
I do. So Angelica, I know that you and I share a lot of similarities in terms of progressive values. And I think that's so important. That's one of the big reasons why I support you. One of the questions that I have for you, so I wanted to say that now more than ever, Americans need reliable health care. And I know that you're a supporter of Medicare for all. And I wanted to know, what exactly does that mean to you? And what benefits do you think everybody should have?
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, I do remember election night. It was such an intense night. So I'm glad that we were able to share it. And thank you for reminding me about that. Yes, Medicare for all. I think that it's more clear than ever that healthcare is a human right and it should not be tied to your employment. Now we can clearly see that, a pandemic or just about anything can really make your guarantee, what you thought was a guaranteed job, go out the window. So I think that we need to move on to a Medicare for all system, enhanced Medicare for all, so including eye exams, eyeglasses, hearing aids, and dental benefits, and with no copay, no out of pocket. Similar to what we've seen in other countries. We're already spending about twice per capita than other countries that are providing already universal health care. We already are paying for universal health care. The only thing that we have in the way of being able to get to universal health care is private insurance and all this bureaucracy in the middle. I believe that healthcare should be between you and your healthcare provider. And that's really who should be dictating your healthcare. And as we've already seen with the numbers, we're actually going to be saving money in the long run by providing healthcare for all, because we're going to be able to address preventative health issues and be able to address health problems early on. And again, like I mentioned, we are spending so much money on the bureaucracy and executives and all of these people that have nothing to do with your healthcare. And if anything, their job is to deny you healthcare. That we will be able to have more than enough revenue, actually, like I said, to save money in the long run by providing healthcare for all.
Well, when you think of how many people are in jobs that they don't love, just because they need to be in that job for healthcare. And if you want to boost your economy, remove some of this economic tension and stress and anxiety that people carry with them, so that they can be happy in jobs they love, happy employers, happy employees. I had surgery a couple of months ago, and I had never had anything quite like this. I'd never had a serious injury before. And it's been a real life-changing experience for me in many ways. And I have thought so many times, where would I be if I didn't have health insurance? And I didn't know until this experience how many people in this country experience chronic pain. And I'm with you. I'm so with you. And
I mean, even right now with people with fantastic insurance, I used to work in for a healthcare plan, and it was considered a Cadillac insurance plan. It was union, and yeah, I mean, if you were in network, But the second you got out of network, I mean, it was crazy the amount of bills that people were getting. And these are people who did everything right. They researched, they called ahead of time, they went on the computer, they looked up everything. But the thing is, when you're in the hospital, just because the hospital's in network doesn't mean that everybody's going to touch you that day is going to be. And we saw just horrific stories with people who had excellent healthcare, excellent insurance that still got caught up in the system.
And also when you're sick, you don't have the energy to be, what people have to go through, it's horrifying. And of course, this is just one more idea where Bernie has so changed the conversation. We're at a point now where this is an idea whose time is coming. And we will get there. And I also want you to know, maybe as I've told you before, we've got to get Angelica there. And then next time we'll get you there. And
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you so much. Thank you, Angelica, and thank you, Marianne. And
thank you,
Angelica, you know, before you cut me off, I just wanted to say thank you, Angelica, because that means a lot to somebody like me. So, you know, I am an elected official right now, but my current position is a volunteer position. So I don't make any sort of profit from it. So I still have to go out and make my money to be able to pay my bills on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, I'm a performance artist, and, you know, very often the way that I make my money is it's kind of in the gig economy. And as we have seen, you know, the gig economy has really increased in previous years. And what we haven't seen increase is health benefits for people that are working in the gig economy. And I think that's a big part of why it's so important to support gig economy workers, because gig economy workers, every kind of worker, every kind of person deserves to have Medicare for all, deserves to have health coverage so that they can go to the doctor and make sure that they are healthy and living safely. And so I just want to thank you for all that you're fighting for.
And that means no on Prop 22, right?
Exactly. That's a direct correlation to no on Prop 22.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Maybe.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Till next time, maybe. Thank you so much.
Next time.
Angelica, there's another person who wants to ask you a question, and his name is Andrew Mendoza. So let's bring up Andrew Mendoza so he has an opportunity to do that. Hey, Andrew. Hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you for having me, Marianne.
Thank you. Tell me what you do, Andrew.
I am a political science student at Cal Poly Pomona.
Wow. And you have been aware of Angelica's race. Do you live in Angelica's district?
Yes, I am. I've been aware, and I do live in her district. I live in Sylmar. So I am very excited, and was very excited to hear that there was someone challenging Tony Cardenas. When I heard that, I knew that I had to do something to help her get elected.
What about other students, the people like you who are in school? Are you feeling the energy? Do you think that the young people, the students of America, are going to show up in this, not just for Angelica, but in general? Are they going to show up for Biden? Are they going to really show up for America in this race? What's your feeling?
Well, obviously after Bernie had first, when he lost the primaries, it was hard for a lot of us younger people. We had to get through another depression state. But now that we have gone through that state and come back up and see that Trump is a existential crisis for our democracy, we know that we need to put Democrats in power in order to get him out. And Democrats as progressive as Angelica is someone that not only we're proud to support, but is a blessing, because not everyone has the opportunity to vote for someone as progressive as Angelica.
Exactly, because if you just tell people to vote for the same old corporate Democrat who's been there for a long time and hasn't really made any changes, it becomes very debilitating, and it leads to cynicism on the part of people. And that's why when you see someone like Angelica running, you go, yes. So let me get out of the way here. What's your question for Angelica?
So Angelica, as you know, the vast majority of scientists say that we are coming towards a point of no return on climate change. Now, your platform states that you strongly support a Green New Deal as well as creating environmentally friendly jobs. Would you be able to expand on that position and tell us more about your plan? Yes,
I mean, as far as what I envision a Green New Deal to be, It's very much, we think of a great new deal. It's a jobs program, but it's going to be a jobs program with a purpose. And including that's going to, we have Medicare for all included in it. We have tuition-free higher education, including the trades. We're having, fixing our infrastructure and transitioning from the fossil fuel to the green industry. Like here in Sun Valley, for example, we can clearly see why we need to transition. We have the Sun Valley generation plant with that LADWP runs that has actually, we've been hearing, that has been leaking methane for over 2 years. They actually knew about it for over a year, chose not to fix it until it became public information through a study by JPL NASA. And now they've patched up the leak, but it's still leaking. So we're clearly seeing the effects of, being dependent on the fossil fuel industry. We need to go clean. Here in our district, we have a disproportionate amount of breathing problems. We have dirty air, and we have, the utilities around us that are showing us even more what they do, which is environmental racism. Like all of this stuff is connected. And so my Green New Deal, what I propose as a Green New Deal, is literally a shift of moving towards an economy of peace, a green economy of peace. Cutting back on military spending, not, getting rid of the military. I understand that it's very important, but 50% of our tax money goes straight to the military. So we need to take a look at that. We need to take a look at mismanagement and misspending, and really take a look at where we can focus our energy and really be utilizing the systems that we already have. We have the Army Corps of Engineers. They can really be a vital part of going green in this whole Green New Deal. So my thing is, it's a very holistic and very far encompassing plan that will get us to 100% green, and at the same time address our necessities, which is education, health, access to health care, and the hospitals and clinics. For example, building them out in rural areas. We have people who are driving 2 hours to go see a doctor, 2 hours to go to the hospital. If we were to make Medicare for all a reality, we also need to make it accessible and a realistic option for people. All of these, which means jobs and a guaranteed jobs program, because people want work and there's more than enough work to be done. This would be my Green New Deal. It would be a holistic approach, and pulling away from going from the fossil fuels to going green, and at the same time focusing on peace and community.
Well, I hope that you have a chance to vote for a Department of Peace. And I think Andrew's point is thank you, good, I'm glad you will. And Andrew's point, of course, is very well taken. Some scientists say we really only have 7 years before, if we do not turn this thing around, we will have massive social collapse, massive food shortages, economic breakdown, what could be hundreds of millions of environmental refugees. And I know you're a mother of 5, Angelica, and I'm sure that you are as infuriated as I am about the ways that the EPA allows Dow and other chemical companies to sell and to manufacture these pesticides that we know do harm to a developing child's brain, as well as the current EPA having gutted the Clean Water Act. So this is not only the earth that is being assaulted, our bodies are being assaulted, all the species that live on it. So Andrew, I think it's very moving the way your generation, the way so many students, and for good reason, you want to be able to breathe, you want your children to be able to breathe. And I think it's great that you're supporting someone like Angelica, who you know will go to Congress and make those changes and pass enough at a certain point, whether it has to do with Medicare for all, whether it has to do with the Green New Deal, there's a certain way in which enough talk. We just need to elect the people who will make the changes. It really does come down to, if you want the change, elect the change agents. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you, Angelica, for running.
Thank you, Andrew.
Angelica, I have already said, and I'll say it again, you're everything that I and so many millions of us want to see in Congress. Your sincerity is so obvious, your character, who you have to be to, at your age, have 5 children and to be running for Congress. I know your parents must be so proud of you, and the fact that you Do they live in California, your parents?
But my parents, so they're from Mexico. They were from Mexico. It's a cute story. They're from neighboring towns in the state of Jalisco, Mexico. But they actually met here in the district in the neighboring neighborhood of Pacoima. My dad was actually 9 years younger than my mom when they met. Like they asked each other their age, and my dad was, well, how old are you? And my mom said whatever age she was, like 25, and he was like 26. And so he just added a year to his age, and he was like premature gray, so she totally believed it. And it turned out that he was 9 years younger than her, and the rest was history. But I live in the same property as when I was born. In fact, we used to rent the back house, and eventually my parents bought the property, and I'm actually in the back house with my family. And living here, and I'm very fortunate for the sacrifices that my parents did. And actually my dad passed away. He died in August 9th. And yeah, it's been really hard. He was the biggest believer, my biggest cheerleader of all of them. And he was like going through dialysis and everything every other day. And we were already making plans of like how were we going to figure it out, in January and everything like that. So it's been hard, but the struggle continues, and that's what it is. It's like, working class people, like, this is life, and tragedies happen, but there's no only way to go is forward. And this is what we're doing. And and I believe that our fight is way bigger than me and anything that I personally have to deal with. So because of that, the struggle continues, and here we are, moving forward, and really putting our race as a priority. And this goes for my family too here, from my husband to my mom. We really have felt a connection with this campaign and with the struggle of our community. So we do believe that the struggle continues and that it's worth fighting for.
Well, I'm sure your father's spirit is here and very active in the campaign. You told me your children are active. You and I were talking about how when you come to Washington as a congresswoman, your mother will help your husband take care of the children when you're not there. Angelica,
that's right.
I wish you the very, very best. I want to say once again, it's Angelica for Congress, Angelica #4 Congress.com. Angelica Dueñas, whether you live in California 29, wherever you live, get out your credit card, do what you can, get onto ActBlue, help Angelica, send this around. She's going places, but we got to get her to Washington right now. I think you're beautiful. I wish you the very, very best. I will be thinking about you on election night. I totally expect to see on my computer, if not on my television screen, that in California 29, newcomer Angelica Dueñas won, beat the establishment incumbent, and I promise I will jump up and down and hallelujah, like a lot of people will, in great excitement. So I'm giving you an anticipatory congratulations. Congratulations just for even running this race. And I see great things ahead. God bless you, honey. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody, I am so grateful that we had a chance to do this summit. We had 19 candidates, all of whom have been absolutely fabulous. Some of them got through their primary, some of them didn't, but even those who didn't, I hope that we will see them again. People understand how important these down ballot races are. I told you, you probably have guessed who it is. I told you that we have a very special guest with us tonight to help us cap off the summit. And I've been saying he's someone who's had more to do with than anybody with turning Texas blue. He's not just a great Texan, he's a great American. I had the honor of getting to know him a little bit and what he has been doing to change Texas. You probably know I am a native Houstonian. My mother was born and raised in Houston. I have family in Texas. I know progressive Texas. That's what I grew up with. And so I have been very interested, and I signed up. The organization Powered by People, founded by our guest, was doing some phone banking. I signed up. I don't think I did a very good job, but I tried because I want to support his efforts because I'm so impressed. So please join with me in giving a warm welcome to the really fabulous Beto O'Rourke. Beto, join us. Hey. Hi, darling. How are you?
Hey.
Thank
So
you.
good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. And thank you so much for being here.
I'm doing great.
You know, Beto, everybody knows that Texas is getting there, and it's kind of like, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, Texas is going to do it. And nobody exemplifies the effort to get Texas into the blue lane more than you do. And of course, this entire summit that we've done has had to do with supporting these down-ballot candidates. So tell us, I think everybody has a lot of curiosity about Texas. Tell us about what's been happening. Tell us about what you've been doing with Powered by People, and also tell us how we can help.
Well, first of all, I just got to say thank you for everything you're doing for progressive candidates around the country. And imagine the surprise of those Texas voters when a couple of Mondays ago, on the eve of early voting, they were getting phone calls from Marianne Williamson, from Oprah Winfrey, from Willie Nelson, from Julian Castro, from Bernie Sanders. We, on that day, and you helped us do it, made almost 3 million phone calls to Texas voters. And here's the great news. In the most voter suppressed state in the union, a state that ranked 50th in voter turnout just 2 years ago, we are first in the nation in number of ballots cast. We're first in the nation in turnout improvement over 2016. We're first in the nation in young voters' participation in this election. And there are still 4 days left of early voting, or 3 days left now of early voting in the state of Texas, and then election day. And the first 3 counties in the United States of America to surpass their total 2016 vote turnout were in the state of Texas. So your native state, Marianne, is turning out, showing up, and standing up to be counted. And we are really, really excited about it. And we're continuing the effort of calling voters. And then today I'm in San Antonio in Bexar County, actually knocking on doors with the Texas Organizing Project at a safe distance and wearing masks and making sure that we're careful and protect one another. But this state is really doing its part. And so we are so grateful to you for shining a spotlight on it.
Oh, absolutely. And you, of course, embody this energy, and no one has had more to do with you than you with making Texas this shining star of progressive politics. We've been watching you. We know, nobody doesn't get it, that when it comes to this great surge of progressive energy in Texas, that's Beto, its name is Beto O'Rourke. And of course, Beto, you and I have had this conversation, my having grown up there. I grew up in the age of Barbara Jordan, Ramsey Clark, Jim Hightower, of course, who is still out there with us. And so when Texas went so red, that wasn't the Texas that I grew up with. It wasn't really the Texas that I knew. So what I'm sort of, in my view, I'm sort of seeing Texas return to its roots, And also I know Houston, of course, after New York, Houston is the most ethnically diverse city in the country. And of course, when you talk about a lot of the shift in Texas and the early voting and the surge of pro-democratic fervor, that's what we're talking about, right? Multicultural, multi-ethnic. Talk to us about that. Who lives in Texas now?
Yeah, I'll tell you this by way of answering the question. I remember one of the first times I really had a chance to talk with you was after the first or second debate, and you gave perhaps the best answer of the night on any issue, and it was specific to race and justice in the United States of America. And those of you who know your U.S. and your Texas and your political history know that when Lyndon Baines Johnson, the Texan who was president after the death of John F. Kennedy, signed into law the Civil Rights Act in '64 and the Voting Rights Act of '65, he said, we've lost the South for a generation. And as Marianne said, Texas, by the 1980s and certainly the 1990s, was turning red, and it solidified in the 21st century. And it's interesting, and thanks to these voters who've overcome the suppression that we've talked about in Texas, who are Black voters, 1.5 million registered Black voters in the state of Texas, Mexican-American voters, more than 5.5 million eligible Latino voters in the state, South Asian voters and East Asian American voters. There are more Vietnamese language speakers in Houston, Texas than in any city on planet Earth outside of the country of Vietnam. They are the story. Those voters, more than any party or candidate or other force in the universe right now. And in 2018, though I did not defeat Ted Cruz, we became the first campaign. I was the first candidate to win the 4 major metro areas and surrounding counties since Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1964. And what I'm understanding now is that 2018 served as prologue to 2020, and Black voters, Latino voters who've literally been drawn out of a district because of their race or ethnicity, who have been voter ID'd out of the franchise, who have been intimidated. Donald Trump sending troops to the border on the eve of the 2018 election, or Greg Abbott now threatening to send 1,000 state guard to polling places, perhaps in Texas. These voters are overcoming that, and their tenacity, perseverance, and courage is the most inspiring thing in the world. And I just want to make sure that we have their backs, because as you have pointed out so effectively and powerfully, this story of justice and of making sure that whatever, those civil rights leaders and marchers and the folks who were willing to sacrifice their lives, and some who did, whatever they started, that work is far from being done.
That's right.
And so much of it is playing out in the state of Texas right now, and will be decided on the night of November 3rd. So I think that's the story, that the Texas voter, and especially Texas voters in communities of color. It's very exciting.
Let's talk for a moment about Greg Abbott, and let's go back to Lyndon Johnson for a moment. In 1964, when he signed the Civil Rights Act, as you said, he said, "We just lost the South for a generation." He didn't say for 40 years. I have never understood why so much of the Democratic Party just said, okay, and just abandon Texas, abandon the South. He said 1 generation. And I meet progressives all over the South, all over Texas, who have felt the effects of that abandonment. And that's why it's so important, people like yourself. Once again, I come from Houston, that is Harris County. Greg Abbott, of course, everybody's been reading about. Harris County is bigger than the state of Rhode Island. And what he's made it, 2 polling places? He's limited to 2 polling places. I mean, one polling place. So we are actually seeing elected officials, governors, and as we know, a president as well, and his lackey who heads the post office, actually working to suppress American democracy. They're actually working to make it harder. And now we have the Supreme Court working to make it harder with their current decision in Wisconsin. All of us are holding our breath about next Tuesday night, but if this thing is thrown to the Supreme Court. Somebody said today that this next week, it's like Hanukkah of anxiety, 8 days and nights of anxiety. But talk to me about Greg Abbott. You must be such a thorn in his side. You must live to inconvenience him. I certainly hope. Tell me what you were just saying a minute ago. You were talking about his saying he would send out troops. Talk to us about how you see in Texas, as well as the rest of the country, what are your concerns, not only about suppression, but about voter intimidation on November 3rd?
Well, you just mentioned what was kind of the first salvo in this latest round of voter suppression. He closed all of the additional voter drop-off, ballot drop-off sites in the state of Texas. So Harris County, which, as you mentioned, is larger than Rhode Island, has more people in it than the entire state of Nevada, had multiple convenient ballot drop-off locations for the elderly, the infirm, those who were not well enough to stand in lines and wanted to be able to drop off a ballot. He closed all of them down but one, which means that a voter might have to drive 50 miles in order to be able to drop off her ballot. And he did so because he understands some people may not be willing to or not be able to make that journey. And he's trying to stop people from voting. Nonetheless, on the first day of early voting.
If I might, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What does he say when asked about that?
It's bizarre, Marianne. He couches it in the language of protecting against voter fraud, though the incidents and instances of voter fraud are so small, you're more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to see any sign of voter fraud in the state of Texas. And I think what we realize now is that they're not so much scared of voter fraud as they are of voters and of voting and the votes that those voters will cast. This deployment potentially of 1,000 state guard, in communities like mine in El Paso that are of mixed immigration status, that are 85% Mexican American, there are families who fear engagement or encounters with law enforcement, or in this instance, the United States military, for fear that it might end up in the deportation of a family member, since, the president has tried to radicalize local law enforcement and even threaten the military's use in enforcement of immigration laws. So all of this in a state with, one of the fastest growing Latino populations, who comprise about 40% of the population of Texas. All of this is a very cynical, very racist, very unconstitutional ploy to undermine voting. And you put it so well earlier. I mean, beyond Republicans and Democrats, this is about democracy. And this real test as to whether or not our democracy can survive this president, this level of voter intimidation, and a governor like Abbott, who is so cynically trying to stop people from voting. And I think this latest move is in response to the fact that Texas leads the country now in voter turnout. But one other thing I've got to tell you, Marianne, he's also, Abbott, in addition to Trump, responsible for just devastating suffering and loss. El Paso, Texas, my hometown, is now the worst hit hotspot in the country for COVID. We are well past 100% capacity on our hospitals. We're opening up field hospitals at the Civic Center. I talked to a young woman the other day, this weekend, whose 90-year-old Korea War grandfather is in the hospital with COVID. She can't see him. She can't talk to him. He doesn't have a cell phone. For her to think about her grandfather dying alone after everything he's done for her and this country, I put that on this president and our who have prioritized politics over the saving of the lives of the people in our lives. And I don't think that's lost on the voters in Texas. They understand it is a life and death matter, this election, and changing out those who are in position to trust.
And you also have some fabulous down-ballot candidates. It's not just the presidential election that's so important. Here on the at the summit, we've had Mike Siegel, we've had Julie Oliver. There's one other Texan I think we've had. I can't remember.
Maybe Candace Valenzuela.
No, actually, although I know. Oh, Donna Imam.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so wonderful to see these very spirited people, and I think they're all doing very well. I mean, Mike's been talked about all over the country. I absolutely adore Julie. It was wonderful meeting Donna. So the work that you're doing to support all of this is amazing. Give me the name. Let everybody know the website where they can go to learn more and to help if they can.
It's called Powered by People, and the website is spelled poweredxpeople.org. And from there, you can sign up for a phone bank to call the millions of Texas voters who have yet to cast a ballot. As many as have already voted, there are even more who have yet to vote. And Texas makes it very hard for them to vote. So all we're asking you to do when you sign up for a shift is to call that voter, help them find their closest polling place, help them make a plan to vote, and that's it. You don't have to sell a candidate or a political party or really anything. You're just helping them participate in our elections and ensuring that our democracy works. And so grateful that you would allow me to mention that. So grateful that you're doing all this great work for down-ballot candidates in Texas. And folks, I got to tell you, she doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the talk. She actually made phone calls into Texas with us on the phone bank, which was amazing for us and was a real boost of encouragement for all the other volunteers who are doing that work. So we cannot thank you enough.
No, don't be silly. We're all in this together. Please give my regards to your delightful wife, who I had the good fortune of meeting on the campaign. We went through something together, all of us, and I think there's a bond there. And I know that you
Absolutely.
feel as I feel. It was an experience like none other, and I think you probably feel as I do, brutal and exhilarating at the same time. Yes?
Yeah, that describes it. That totally does.
Yes, but it's been wonderful to see you out there going into this next move. You're out there, you're on the move, and you are part of the American consciousness, Beto, and that's not going to change. And this is a continuance. You know, it's like a political journey is a long ribbon through time. And becomes candidates like yourself become almost like family members. You know, it's like we are always on the lookout for what they're doing next. Let me just, before I let you go, are you feeling hopeful about next Tuesday?
I really am. I really am. And it's these voters. We were knocking on doors in Bexar County today, which is home to San Antonio. And, talking to folks who knew an election was going on. But Marianne, as you know, the minimum wage here is $7.25 an hour. So these are folks we're talking to who maybe work in 2, maybe 3 jobs to make ends meet, don't have the luxury of following the news or what's happening politically. And as hard as that is for some people to understand that folks may still be undecided or unsure even of where they vote or when they're going to vote, that's reality for a lot of people. And so getting to meet them where they are and having conversations about what's important to them, so fulfilling. And yes, it makes me so hopeful about next Tuesday and what Texas might do for the rest of the country, given you and others in the rest of the country trying to help Texas out right now. So I very much feel like I'm
go wild if you get Texas. I read that Kamala Harris has either been there this week or is going to be there this week? Did I read that?
So we hear that she's coming on Friday, and we are very, very excited about that. And you know that Texas hasn't had this kind of attention in a long time, and we need that to help keep this high voter turnout going. So that's a good sign. And then we want you back in Texas as soon as you are able to come back to state, once it's safe for people to travel again. I know that folks in Houston, Harris County, and really the state would love to see you again. So come see us. And now that we are family, coming out of that campaign that we all ran together, you always have a home in El Paso, and we would love to have you out here.
Thank you so much. And I'm here in Washington, D.C., and I'm sure that you come over here every once in a while, so don't forget that either. I'd love to see you again in person. And Beto, thank you so much. God bless you and your family, and keep it up, and we'll stay in it together as long as we both shall live. There's a lot to do.
Adios.
No more, honey.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Everybody, I want to thank you for those of you who have participated in the Progressive Candidate Summit. As I said before, it's been an absolute honor to meet the candidates. We've had 19 candidates who have been with us, who have just been so inspiring. And there were a lot more than 19 fabulous candidates, of course, who were running and are running in these down ballot races. I endorsed ones that I was able to have the opportunity to really get up close enough to the campaigns to really know what was going on there. I want to thank my own mentor and friend, Howie Klein, who has who advises me and tells me things and makes me understand things that I might not otherwise be able to understand, and particularly has introduced me to some of these fabulous candidates. How is always out there. His blog, Down with Tyranny, is the best. I also want to thank my 2 team members, Helen Caddis and Wendy Zoller, for all of the technical and administrative and digital help and work and excellence that has gone into our being able to do the summit. I mentioned before some of the down ballot candidates that we interviewed here made it through their primaries, and some of them didn't, but they were all excellent. And if any of you who didn't get through your primaries are watching me now, I hope to see you again. I supported you this time, and if you keep it up like you did it this time, I want to be in there to support you next time. I'm sure you had to go through your grief, had to go through your processing, but then get right back up there. Take Beto O'Rourke as a role model for that. It's so important that we keep going. We have 1 week to go, and among other things, I think we should be praying for peace surrounding this election day coming up, with light and with love and with peace. There are some agents of chaos in our society, and we know that. And we know some of the dangers that do hover, but we also know that the spirit of America there's something so beautiful on the rise. You saw it tonight talking to Angelica. You see it with Beto, you see it with all the people who we've interviewed for the summit. Go to progressivecandidatesummit.com. I hope that you will give a donation to these candidates tonight. Yes, in this final week, absolutely yes. They still need your help. And I'm telling you, even just your own energy, give that $5, do what you can, because it's all the difference. I thought it was so touching tonight when Angelica was saying, this is my door. What do you call that? A door? There's a word for that. they hang on the door and they'd have those darling pictures and paintings. Let's help these people. Door knockers, somebody just told me. So I hope that all of us will do everything we can, including prayers for peace. This thing's not going to be over on November 3rd. Whatever, and whoever wins the presidency, and I heartily endorse Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden's presidency is necessary to break the free fall of American democracy. I am one of those people, as you probably well know, who believes that a fascist element is in the White House. I was using that word and saying that very early in the presidential campaign when I was talking about at my CNN town hall. I said it was time for all of us to face that there are real fascistic elements in some of what has already occurred, and which I fear will only, you think it's bad now. This is him held back. Give him a second term and we're going to really have a problem on our hands, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else. But you know what? We're going to be doing the same work regardless what happens, because America needs repair. We need a season of repair. We need a season of realignment, just as other generations have been called on to realign public policy in the United States with the angels of our better nature. You've probably heard me remind you before, we answered slavery with abolition. Those were our ancestors who did that. We answered institutionalized oppression of women with the suffragette movement. Those were our ancestors who did that. We answered the civil segregation with the civil rights movement. Those were our ancestors who did that. And there are a lot of things that still need to be handled, God knows. And in some of those areas, including race relations, in certain ways over the last few years, things have gotten worse rather than better. Whether it has to do with Native American population, whether it has to do with race, whether it has to do with homophobia, anti-Semitism, whether it has to do with Islamophobia, xenophobia, we know that all of those things are an obstruction to the full embodiment and manifestation of the real American ideal, that all men are created equal, that our Creator gave all men inalienable rights of life, of liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that that governments are instituted according to our Declaration of Independence in order to secure those rights. And if the government's not doing that job, the Declaration says it is the right of the people to alter it or to abolish it. Next week, we're going to have a chance to alter it. Let's alter it fundamentally. And then we can't ever go back. Whatever complacency, whatever distractedness, whatever on our own part might have actually conspired, at least subconsciously, with the energy that led us to take our eye off the ball, because it should never have gotten this bad. We need to now see citizenship as an aspect of a well-lived life. We want to have a meaningful life, your sense of your citizenship in your country and in the world. That expanded awareness has got to become a permanent, fundamental alteration within us, because it's time for our generation to show up as other generations have shown up. And I know the very fact that you're here with us on the summit means that you're showing up. And I know so many of you have shown up for these candidates, and I thank you. Once again, go to progressivecandidatesummit.com. Go to Angelica for Congress. Go to Powered by People, poweredxpeople.org. Go to Beto's organization. Go to your own districts, your own states, your own congressional candidates, and obviously, let's get a new president in the United States. Also tonight at midnight East Coast time, we'll be dropping my first podcast, the Marianne Williamson podcast. I will be speaking to Carolyn Mace, the wonderful author and transformational leader in higher consciousness. I will be talking to Carolyn, and that is dropping tonight. Also Friday, I have a wonderful conversation that will be a special podcast with Stephen Donziger about his case with Chevron. And today I had the honor of talking to Anna Girderas, who will be with me, and we will drop that one next week. All my best to you, my gratitude. I feel we're all in something together, and we're not stopping. We're not stopping. And one day all of us are going to see something really beautiful, something miraculous happen in this country. And we'll get to feel like we did what we could to help make it happen. God bless all of you. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Helen. Thanks to all of you. See you next time. Bye-bye.